Magdalena Grand Tobago was the venue chosen to hold the government's first retreat since taking office in September 2015. The three-day event commenced with a cabinet meeting held here at the hotel. Following the wrap-up of cabinet, the members of the Tobago House of Assembly, led by Chief Secretary Mr. Orville London, were invited to join their cabinet counterparts for discussions. Following the meeting held between members of the Cabinet and the Tobago House of Assembly, a media conference was held to update the population on issues discussed and decisions taken.
Thank you very much. Let me add my quota of welcome to those of you who are visiting Tobago, so that those of us visitors can feel at home. And thank you to the Tobago Media Corps for coming out in such large numbers. Today was a very special meeting for us in the Cabinet in that we focused very heavily on matters which affect Tobago as well as other national matters. And some decisions were taken along the way. Tobago is now reporting to the Cabinet that we are the only island that does not have a direct flight from the major tourism destinations. So we discussed at length how the national airline can and should be brought into the picture so that instead of funding losses at the location of the hotel and Tobago in general, and I dare say Trinidad and Tobago, we may be better spending those monies that we support the losses with on a better effort by Caribbean Airline to provide the airlift that's required. So the Cabinet took a decision that the Ministry of Finance, where the corporation sole exists, and which where CAL reports, and the THA, and the Ministry of Tourism will meet as a matter of urgency and with proper technical and financial advice determine what role CAL must and can play in satisfying the need for improved air access to Tobago. We also commit to make the investment in modernizing the terminal arrangements at Arthur Napoleon Raymond Robinson Airport so that that infrastructural investment should position Tobago to receive a better inflow and egress of people using the facility. We discussed and we agreed that WASA and the relevant ministries will immediately, as a matter of urgency, examine the potential for a desalination facility in Western Tobago to provide a sustainable supply of water to Tobago going forward so that we will not have this problem of water shortage in Tobago as we go forward from year to year. Cabinet took a decision to examine without prejudice the Tourism Development Corporation and its role in promoting, developing, marketing Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago as a destination. I can tell you, in the months that we have been in government, we have been looking at this and we are dissatisfied with the current arrangement and we are sure that better arrangements can be made. And what we've decided to do is to get the relevant technical support in short order, I think to report within 3 months, on the kinds of models of tourism development and marketing that are available in the Caribbean and elsewhere, which we can remodel Tobago's arrangement on. We've looked at the numbers, we've looked at the expenditure, we looked at the behavior, and we've come to the conclusion that the TDC, its expenditure and its behavior, is contributing little to the marketing of Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago as a destination. And therefore we need to rectify that. And within just over 3 months from now, we will report as to what new model the government will proceed to pursue.
Friday, March 4th began with a meeting of the Cabinet in Caucus. This was followed by sessions with facilitators which covered a range of issues such as the public's perception of government's performance, government's own perception of its performance, the interface between ministers and the civil service with particular reference to permanent secretaries, as well as strategies for improving the relationship between ministers and the civil service and their permanent secretaries. The third and final day of the retreat began with a presentation by the Honorable Colm Imbert, Minister of Finance, on the economic and financial realities being faced by Trinidad and Tobago. The Way Forward. This was the title of the final presentation to retreat participants, delivered by none other than the Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley. After this presentation, Dr. Rowley took the time to address the National Media Corps.
Thank you very much, members of the media. We've had a very successful retreat, and by retreat we mean working sessions where the government, which has been in office for 6 months, having come into office 2 weeks before the national budget was due, and having managed the affairs of state, which largely had to do with the suppression of expenditure while not crashing the economy, and treating with a mountain of debt and the requirement to manage the country under reduced revenue streams, the cabinet met over 2 days, treating with a number of issues under the following heading: the whole question of financial management of the state affairs, the prioritizing of projects, the treatment of government's commitments, including arrears owed to public servants and other persons to whom the government is indebted, the whole question of the public service and its role in ensuring that what has been happening in Trinidad and Tobago does not continue, which is that in the public sector, outside of the ministries, large sums of money are being spent in instances where such expenditure and contracting are not supported at initiation by monies in the accounts of the persons who are awarding those contracts. The result being that the government's exposure to contracting debts is infinite. What we have come to the position of doing is putting the current cabinet, which has met in retreat after the permanent secretaries have done so, because I don't know if you are aware or were told, I think it was 2 weeks ago, the permanent secretaries all met in a similar retreat to view these issues from the perspective of the permanent secretary corps, who are the public accounting officers. So after they met, today, one of the persons who took part in the retreat was the head of the public service, who led that permanent secretary retreat. And we did have Mr. Reginald Dumas, who, as you know, is a very experienced person in public affairs. We had former permanent secretary, Mr. Winston Rudder, who actually worked with me as permanent secretary way back in 1991. And remains one of the leading lights in public administration conversations in the country. And we had former CPO, Dr. Roland Batiste. We had Mr. Steve Gardner, an industrial engineer, who was one of the architects of the Point Lisas project management core that built Point Lisas. And we had Alison Lewis, who is a recent permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance. These people were extremely valuable in helping the current cabinet to come to grips with the current assignment.